Welcome to the Keeping IT Real podcast. This podcast features honest and transparent conversations about what it takes to manage corporate technology and expenses today. Each episode, listen to true and personal stories from IT professionals who are working hard to make sure their business stays connected and competitive. I'm your host, Jethro Castillo, and let's meet our next guest. Today I'm joined by Anthony Mitchell, the Director of IT Operations at American Petroleum Institute, representing all segments of America's natural gas and oil industry. Anthony has years of experience as a leader in the IT space across many industries, including manufacturing, education, government, entertainment, and theme parks. Anthony also hosts a talk show of his own called The Median Society, shining a light on the underrepresented class of upper middle class Black Americans. Anthony, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So we're going to talk a lot about IT and tech. That's kind of the name of the game, but obviously life isn't just tech, even though it feels like that. So let's kind of just, general question, what kind of fills your life when IT isn't taking up your time?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think the general answer for a lot of guys my age is family, kids, right? But I'm so multifaceted. I call myself a Renaissance guy, Renaissance man, right? Because I'm still into music. I'm still into media, mass media, so to speak. On top of being dad, at the end of the day. So that really fills it up, with between doing production on my own podcast on a week-to-week basis, and then producing music and songwriting and things like that. So,
I a lot of questions here.
Sure.
What kind of music, what kind of got you into the music world, and what do you like to produce and make music about?
Yeah. So originally, I've always been a singer. And I started singing obviously a long time ago. When I started singing, it was typically, church and that got me into it. But I came from a family in which there were musicians. My dad was a traveling musician. He came from the West Indies, in a band, traveling the world, performing. And my mom was also a vocalist, my dad being Caribbean, my mom being African-American, right? So that really probably spearheaded because I've always been around music my entire life. There was nothing stopping me in that aspect. And my parents were very much about the arts. So whatever I wanted to do in the arts, I ended up going to a school called Full Sail down in Florida, which is a very big media arts school. And that kind of helped guide me towards being able to be in the music industry as a recording engineer. That's kind of what got me.
It's funny because, arts, and I'm glad that you're still able to pursue that. But obviously right now your current role is an IT operations role. So how did that bridge happen? How did you get from all music, all arts and land where you are now?
Great question. So because of the arts, that's what really got me into IT, right? So I got started in the music, when I was in the music industry and working in recording studios and all of that, there was, at that point, there really wasn't a Geek Squad and all of these companies that you can call and say, hey, come fix my machine and all of that. And the big push, when you go to a school like Full Sail, the big push is Mac. Apple. Always using a Mac at Apple, right? Everybody says you got to have this for the music industry. Well, that really wasn't that true back then, but obviously, for them, it seemed like it was the best thing. But we were at a point, we met up with this one gentleman who actually spearheaded, Mr. Booker. We'll call him. I mean, that is his last name.
We'll call him Mr. Booker, but that's his actual name.
That's his real name. So Mr. Booker became a big mentor to me. He was a Lockheed engineer, and he was an African American. He is an African American, still alive. He's an African American that really believes in providing insight to other African Americans in technology. He was ahead of the game, ahead of the curve, always trying to get other African Americans, young African Americans, to grasp a technology. We're talking about, mid 90s, early 90s, where you didn't see a lot of Blacks in the tech space, as you will now. So with that, we partnered and we actually formed a production company, a music production company. During that time, some of the equipment we were trying to buy Obviously Macs were super expensive and we were trying to do this cost consciously, even back then. And back then Mac had a product. Well, there was a Mac equivalent called the Radius. That was one of many of the Mac clones that were developed then. So we thought about, man, we should buy that. He said, guys, what if I just teach you guys how to build a computer? And I'm thinking, I was thinking all the time, man, we're not going to be able to build a computer. And he actually took us through building the computer, and we were able to always maintain our systems in the recording studio, right? So that really sparked the interest in like, well, people are making money from this, and like, it's more than just building this machine to have a physical function for an organization. He was sparking something in us that myself and my other business partner, he sparked something in us that would carry on to now, to where I make a lot of money in this industry. I've made a lot of money in this industry. So I look at it like, because of that, and because of what he spearheaded and sparked in our hearts and our minds, that's really what got me into IT.
Wow.
That.
No, that's a phenomenal story. I love that story so much. I don't even have a lot of words. I'm just like, I have a job as the host to like keep on moving the conversation forward, but now I'm just like, wow, I want to just think on that for a little bit. No,
hey, that's good. I hope I intrigue a lot of thought today.
I think because, you know, when the classic story of IT is I loved computers from a young age. I knew I wanted to do tech. And then there are some who like fall into it because then they end up into a help desk situation and find that they really like helping people. And this is a really cool story just of just mentorship and inspiration, and falling into that. And so I appreciate you kind of sharing that for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anytime. Love to share this kind of thing.
What keeps you in IT? What is your favorite part about continuing to work in the technological space?
Great question. So I do like the factor that it is consistently changing. It's never stagnant. It's never just sitting in one place. And there's always more to learn, you know, and I think if you're that kind of person that's curious, a curious person thrives within the information technology. If you're not a curious person, it's almost best to not stay in the field of IT because it changes you. I used to tell people, and I still tell people the same thing. It's one of the fields that will change and move on from you within a 6-month time frame. Every 6 months, something is changing. Something's being revolutionized, and putting itself in a different frame that if you don't stay on top of it, it causes you to lose, right? And I'm pretty competitive, so I don't want to.
I love the competitive nature here. How do you win? How do you continue to stay on top? What do you do to stay in the know?
It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of networking, talking to, building years and years of contacts that we all contact and talk to one another on a regular basis. I don't ever stop talking to my past friends or current friends, always talking about new things that are going on, some best practices. And no, our conversation is not always, hey, did you hear today the new processor from Intel? It's definitely not that, but it is like, I do know that these are the type of professionals and friendships that I built, that when I get on the phone with them, they're going to give me the truth. They're going to give me a best case scenario on what I should do in certain cases. So I think a lot of my friends are guided, are people that provide good guidance, but they also stay abreast of newer technologies just as much as I do. So we can always share with one another.
And I think that's the name of the game with tech is there's too much out there for any one person to know everything all at once. And so it's the perfect industry, not just to be a curious person, but someone who likes to collaborate and constantly be communicating with other people. And I think that's what I enjoy about the industry so much is everyone needs to collaborate in order to succeed. Because if you don't, you will lose. So it's not an isolated competition. We can all work together to succeed together, but we have to learn to work together.
And it's international.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's great about it.
Exactly. No, exactly. And that's really cool. So, I mean, with everything you're kind of taking in and learning, what are the things that you're most excited about? And then also, what are the things that kind of concern you alongside that?
Great question. So one of the things I'm really excited about, I really like seeing where the youth are taking AI, right? I love seeing how engaged they are at pushing boundaries with what it can do in mass and multimedia, so to speak. But it's also really good to see young women and young men pushing the envelope with AI. And I'm most definitely happy seeing a lot of African Americans, like the youth, in that sense, taking advantage of STEM and STEAM based careers. Heavily focusing on best case uses of AI technologies, right? Now, with that, there are some things that are concerning about the evolution and the revolution of AI, right? I think there's always a way for it that we have to be concerned about it causing problems, right? So these are things that I definitely worry about. AI can definitely bring detriment to our society if we don't pay better attention to how it's going to be used. And I'll give you some examples. One thing that comes to mind is technological discrimination, right? So this is one of the things that's near and dear to me, and I talk to people about, because with AI is one of those things that if the wrong developer is developing it, it can cause a slight towards a race, towards a sex, or any demographic of people, right? It all is based on how it's developed, who's developing it, who wants to cause harm to another party using it. Another example, a person. This one woman, she's probably one of the foremost authorities. I keep track of her because she's brilliant. Her name is Timnit Gebru. She used to be one of the AI ethics engineers for Google, and they actually put her out. And to her benefit, they put her out. Now this woman's company is like incredible. Like she's doing major things out there. It was to her benefit to go, and now she has this huge company. You can look her up. But she got put out because she actually wrote a paper talking about technology discrimination and what AI is doing within the organization of Google, right? So of course they didn't want that type of thing. And I'm not here to badmouth them, but in defense of her, she was bringing something to the forefront. And I think that's what we all have to look at. Your generation, my kids' generation, you guys got to look at it and make sure that it is not being discriminatory and providing practices of discrimination.
No, it's tough. And it's interesting because you're right. Whenever somebody kind of implements something, you have to be careful not to introduce bias into that implementation. And sometimes Correct. We're not aware of our own biases. And so having diversity in those implementations helps that neutrality come about. And so that's right. It is kind of our duty and our obligation to ensure that we allow for that diversity and for that voice to be heard at all aspects, so that when we create something that is supposed to serve the people, it serves the people neutrally or how Absolutely. It should be. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Absolutely.
Yep.
You work for big oil, but you haven't always worked for big oil, obviously, because I've talked about all your industries. What's it like working for big oil? But also, what was it? And then would you compare it to other sorts of IT jobs that you had before?
So, that's another one of those great questions. My career has been broad, right? From entertainment to government to manufacturing to, medical manufacturing to big oil, right? The question is, how is it working for big oil, right? So I look at it, I had a different view when I first came in than what I have when you're actually sitting and working for the environment of big oil and the industry of big oil. And the reason why, you realize how much you always hear people on the outside, and they might make a comment, oh, they're doing this type of thing. It's causing issues to the environment, the trees, or whatever else they want to say. But a lot of people don't genuinely realize how much reach petroleum itself has in your everyday life. That microphone, the cushion that's on that microphone is a petroleum-based product, right? That pop filter is an important piece so that you don't get plosives and plurals and coming through your microphone, right? You couldn't do this type of gig, you couldn't do a good podcast without a good microphone. So all of those products, the paint on that, all of those things, the rubber, all of these things, we're affected by that shirt you're wearing. all the things that are the polycarbonate lenses that you have in your glasses, just like I do. These are all petroleum products, man. So, you got to respect the men and women in this industry that are putting so much effort into doing what they do on a day-to-day basis to get not just fuel for your car, fuel for your homes, whatever it may be and whatever it's taking. Now, going back to, just my career in general, I've had a really good opportunity. I've had the opportunity to work deep in the entertainment industry, but also deep in theme parks, right? Something people, they only like dream of doing. Oh, you worked at Disney, you worked at Universal. Yeah. And most people will say, what? Yeah, I worked there, but don't think of it as happy-go-lucky. Right? There are 5 people that are both Universal and Disney. They're both very cool places. I tell everybody, if you have the opportunity to go work at one of those companies, go work. They're really cool. But in general, when you're talking about the different types of industries, you look at what I was doing. Those jobs, every job that I've had has prepped me for something in the next job, right? And those jobs have given me opportunities to explore things like SAP, being able to use technologies like that, implementing those technologies, implementing RF wireless, implementing ERP systems, all of these things. And they've given me those opportunities to do that, to where here today, I'm able to manage a lot of those things. So they're all stepping stones. And I've had some good leaders that have helped me through those times so that I can learn the most in every job. They knew it wasn't going to be my final stop.
Is that something you mentioned? You're a Renaissance man. Is that something that's just part of your personality? Is you want to constantly move and seek a new adventure almost?
I want to constantly learn, right? And I think that the only time you should stop learning is when you're dead. That's about it, right? I don't want to be in a situation where I'm not growing. I don't ever want to be in a situation where leadership and other management is not looking at me as a viable person to their organization. So in order for me to be viable, I got to keep learning. I got to keep practicing what I preach. I got to keep inspiring, and keep motivating. Yeah. Right. As always, motivating myself. And technology is something, because of the progression and its movement, is something that motivates me on a regular basis.
Yeah. Some IT leaders kind of move companies, or some IT leaders stay in their company for a long time, but some people move companies, but within the same sort of industry. You have not. Is that, could it be assumed then that it's because IT is pretty similar no matter where you go, or can we also assume that you're able to bring those differences over and come up with solutions that are unique and special? How does that kind of work for you, going to completely different industries while still working tech?
So I think every time I've moved into a different industry, the leader that's in that company is looking at what I brought to the older company that I was leaving, but they also look at my skill sets and what I can bring to their company so that they can better their environment, right? I think one of my key strengths has always been customer service, right? There's a book that I've always stood by, and I talk to it with all of my employees. I talk to them about this book called The Raving Fan. It's something that when I was at Disney, they make you read this book. I don't know if they do it anymore, but it's called The Raving Fan. I think it's by Ken Blanchard. I can't remember. But this book talks about how you leave a lasting impression when it comes to customer service with your customer base, right? Gone are the days that you can't consider your employees or the employees or coworkers that you work with as a customer. You have to consider them a customer, especially in IT. We are a service-based department, all right? No matter if we're servicing an outside need, but typically we're servicing majorly the inside need of the organization, right? In the ops world, the IT ops side, where our dev side is a bit different. And that's anywhere you go. But I think in short, to answer your question, I think IT is IT. It's just what you bring to it when it comes to IT. All of us have different ways of doing it, different ways of problem solving and thinking things through. But the biggest thing is temper. All of our temperaments are different.
Yeah. No, I have to the raving fan. I actually want to read that book now. Just to see because you're right. And it's interesting that you bring that up, because as an IT person, customer service sometimes isn't. It's hard to connect that sometimes, because we're like, oh, we're not serving the people directly. We're only serving our company. And then that's where you would say, exactly, we're still serving people, and we need to ensure that we don't be the bad guy, and that we allow them to succeed, but we also protect them, and we want to make sure that they're heard and that we're heard. And so, with that being said, though, it's the interesting question about IT, which is, especially in the tech, where the tech environment is now, the landscape, more companies than ever need to rely on tech to succeed. Actually, every organization needs to rely on tech to fully succeed. How do you balance the need for innovation to keep up while maintaining stability and security within your IT infrastructure?
So that's one of those great questions you keep throwing. So balancing the need for innovation. So everybody's always going to want to change something. They're always going to want something new and shiny, and money. It comes down to money, right? For most organizations. But there's another thing that's super important that it comes to now when it comes to the overarching of when innovation has to go. It's security. Cybersecurity is probably one of the largest areas that has to be considered. Even at sometimes in some organizations, I have some friends that work in the cybersecurity for the education segment industry specifically. Money. They spend more money in cybersecurity than any other part of operations for IT, right? So those are two key areas. You have to be able to, money's always going to be a concern for your organization, but cybersecurity is going to be pretty next to the highest priority for anything when it comes to innovation. Does it fit in the organization? Does it fit safe and secure within that organization? So
I imagine too, then it requires some communication or some management of that communication. So you're not just going, okay, we're locking that down. Okay, we're locking that down, and the rest of your organization. And I think that goes back to your customer service, right? How do you present it to them in a way that makes them receive it well and want to use it, rather than be resistant to the changes you're offering as the IT department?
Yeah, and I'll say, here at API, one of the things is because we are communications organization, right, for the whole industry. And one of the things we partner with senior leadership here is helping us communicate to our customers, the employees of the organization. They help us to communicate well to them, keep them abreast of changes that are coming, keep them abreast when we need to make necessary immediate changes. And we built that rapport with our customer base here that they're respecting when we have to make a change. They know we're doing it with thought. We're not just doing it because, this is the newest Chat GPT version 4 or 5, right? They know we're not just changing something just because we think it's cool, from laptops, Surfaces, Lenovo, whatever we're choosing because we've done some due diligence and homework in now bringing it to the forefront for our customer base.
So you've established that trust and that credibility, and that goes a long way for that relationship, for sure.
That's correct.
Changes. What does your day-to-day look like exactly?
So my day-to-day is really basically the same as most technology leaders, right? The difference is it's how it's focused. It's focused in, we have a guiding principle that our CIO, I'm gonna give a shout out to him, Rodney Sampson. Got to give a shout out to the CIO, man.
That was a literal shout out.
Yeah, he's focused the guiding principle. When I first came to this organization, one of the things he sold me on was really these three things that I'm going to tell you: safe, secure, and resilience, right? And that is a daily principle that when I wake up and I come into this company every day, I come in here in the morning, I look at those, I use those three things as key motivators and key performance indexes for me. Are we safe? Are we remaining secure? And are we remaining resilient in our backbone and infrastructure, right? Now, being that those three things are pretty center, and I don't even know if most of our team knows, I know a lot of our team understands that, but I think they just operate within the whole spec of those three areas, sometimes they probably don't even know why they're doing it. But there's been such good leadership in our department, and that's not on me. That comes from the CIO downward, right? And there's been such good leadership that everybody tends to operate at that high level, right? When it comes to their approach to problem solving, and I think that we each have a role to play, right? Everybody's role has to fit within safety of our environment, constantly securing the environment, and being able to establish a resilient back on a regular basis.
You're at a position, right, where you do less of the tactical and more of the strategic, at least relative. Do you kind of miss sometimes doing the work?
No. No. You know what? Here's the cool thing. And that's another thing I do admire about our senior leadership here. And I'm meaning from a CIO. It's all hands on deck. If we have a situation that needs to happen, that needs to get rectified and taken care of, it's all hands on deck. And I'm going to show you something on this video. So this cup, it has a little owl thing on it. The eyes of, what's that thing say? The eye of horns, right?
Yeah.
I always tease my boss about it. I say, dude, you're always giving us some kind of Illuminati stuff. He just laughs about it. But that cup is significant because when I first started here, a lot of us, we were on several Midnight Madness events, right? This is what we call them. This is when you have some type of cyber event and you're having to work on those things through the midnight so that everybody else can work when they come in here Monday morning, right? So my point is in bringing that up is it's all hands on deck. He was on that call. I was on that call. Cybersecurity team was on that call. Our contractors and vendors were on that call. And that's to make sure that everybody can work Monday morning.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it took. So yeah, we don't ever get to a point where we don't have some type of hands-on in something. Do we have to? Are we out there patching a cable, things like that? No, we're not doing it. But we are presenting ourselves as problem solvers to the organization.
Oh, I love that.
On a day-to-day basis.
Oh, I love that. What is, you're a good transition. I love you comment a lot on my good questions, but really you give really great answers. So my good questions just come from that. Problem solving, right? You provide a lot of solutions to problems. What are some of the biggest problems you're facing in your position right now, and how are you tackling it as a team?
Yeah. So it's always, I think this is going to be pretty generic, but money, people resources, and the upkeep and the relearning of technologies. Money from the perspective of cloud, right? Everybody's going to the cloud. That's this big word, this big buzzword that goes on in the industry. But moving to the cloud is an expensive proposition, right? You can leave things on your premise, in your colo or whatever it may be, or in your actual building, in your server room. But most companies, for resilience, there goes that word again, being resilient and secure, they move things to the cloud. Why? Because it's a quicker uptime. If something was to actually go down, they could rebuild, spin it back up, you're good to go. So one of the things we did with this, those are three of the biggest challenges: the money, the people resources, obviously the upkeep. Now, I will say before I go on, the people resources, it's about keeping a good, happy workforce, right? We're in the Washington, D.C. area. So IT is hot, between Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. Somebody can get snatched from your group quickly because there's always somebody willing to pay more money in this tri-state area, so to speak. So it's about really keeping a respectful workplace, one that shows people they're appreciated, and then constantly shows them that they're needed, right? IT people need love and care too. We do, we want to be shown that we're cared about. And then the third part, like I say, was upkeep and relearning technology. So a big help to us in IT is really helping the customer base to learn about newer technologies. So how do you go about doing that? You provide training before something is actually physically released, right? So that they don't feel blindsided. And I think we've tried to do a really good job here at API about doing that exact thing, is training our staff, giving them some foresight, giving them knowledge, meeting with the different individual groups when there's a security concern that we're trying to train people on better security practices, as well as some best practices they can use in everyday life. And when they apply those things here, all of us benefit. So your other question, how do we go about tackling? I think I kind of answered that, just kind of let you know. It's really about just trying to treat people better, help them feel like they're a part of the bigger picture, and always keeping them educated.
Yeah, I think the name of the game too with IT is limited resources, right? Yep. You have to operate within your means. Even though the technology is always increasing, the money doesn't necessarily increase at the same rate, and so you can't possibly necessarily do everything that you want to do. It's a two-pronged question, but we'll start with one. How do you prioritize what initiatives you take on, and how do you know what's the most pertinent for the organization?
Yeah, good question. So we have two specific ways, right? So it's critical that when you're working with your vendors, you do these quarterly business reviews. One, to see where you're at with that technology that you brought into your organization. I think it keeps both parties honest. It keeps us as the user, and it keeps the vendor being honest. We need to know, what do you have coming down the pipeline? Are we getting the most for our money, the most value for what we're using in this product? I've been in places where you have a product and you're only using probably 15% of that product. Because why? Because one, you probably weren't trained well on it when they implemented it in your organization. And the whole time they only trained you for what you need, the immediate use of it. And you're not realizing, man, there's a whole bunch of other stuff this can be doing. And what happens then? You go and buy another product that duplicates the same thing that one had. So that's why I think quarterly business reviews are super important. They get you in the nuts and bolts with that vendor. The other thing is we tend to have, and a lot of companies can't afford this, but this particular company does have a PMO office, so to speak, where we have project managers that help keep us on task, and keep us focused. I got out of a meeting before this one where we're just going through, and that was just just doing a task assessment for the week to see where we're at, what we've completed, things like that. So we can put that in our master project plan on a month-to-month basis or whatever. But you got to have those things. Those two things are key to help us with initiatives. And they also allow us to know if we have enough manpower to handle any other task throughout that week or month or whatever it may be. So, yeah.
No, a few people have mentioned a project management office, and it seems like it's a luxury for some because, like you said, not everyone can afford it. But it really can change the game because it allows you to optimize so much better than just going, can we handle this? Well, we don't know. Maybe let's try to add it on. And then all of a sudden you're overloaded because you had no idea how to measure that capacity in the first place. And so how do you prioritize? Well, you need to know what you have before you can know how to prioritize. So it's the same thing with the vendor relationships, like you said about the QBRs. You need to know what you have before looking at anything else, or else you're going to start wasting money on things you don't need to waste money on. So in order to prioritize, you got to know what you have.
Got to know what you have.
You seem to have a kind of an illustrious career, if you will, kind of motivated by your desire to learn. And there's that classic saying that sometimes you learn best from failure. What are some learning moments that you had that came from things that weren't, confidence doesn't mean like always being right. So confidence comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you will come out better from it. What are some experiences or moments in your life that have happened to you that weren't as successful, but you learned a lot from it?
Yeah, I could tell you. And I'll use this. I use this example even when I was interviewing about to get this job. And I've used it several times. One of the big things is a ERP implementation. Wow, you can see it still stays fresh. Fresh, right? One of the things about that implementation, some of my old friends know about this because we worked at this company when it happened. It was just too massive. It was too massive for the company. So between the CFO, which I don't care, I'll never meet them again, but between the CFO and at that point, the CIO for that organization, it was just poorly managed. I don't even know how they got suckered into bringing in SAP for that size of an organization, right? And SAP is a great product. And I will say, because of my work in there, it helped me get other jobs. But it was just too massive of a product for that organization. I had the opportunity to go with a friend and see what they were doing with SAP at Walmart during that time, because that Walmart had implemented SAP and it was just done right. But look how massive Walmart is compared to most organizations, right? It's such a massive undertaking. And one of the things that it just didn't go well with, one, because it was understaffed. The implementation team was just too small. They sold them on a implementation team. Oh, we can come in here, we do this. And they were thinking they were going to do a lot of this stuff out of the box. With SAP at that point, when it was first fresh, you really couldn't just do things out of the box. You needed them to come in and really customize. But this company, which had a very big German influence, when I worked for them, they were owned by a company over in Germany. They weren't ready. And one of the things I used to always tell them during this time is like, hey guys, we need more people to make this happen. From the database, orchestration and administration side to just the overarching front end side, the tie-ins and all of the different aspects of SAP for your manufacturing, for the finance side, the HR piece, just a lot of different things. And we didn't have enough people. And I'll tell you, I think some of the major things I've learned from that, and I've carried that through my career, is don't hesitate to start with a larger team and then start peeling the onion layers off as you progress through that project, right? Always go with your gut experience. I let them talk me down when I knew with my gut that we could actually be successful in this project if we just take this other path. Hey, do what I'm asking you to do. Like, hey, get us the right amount of people to perform this. And I backed off of my own thoughts. And now I was like, you know what? Okay, this is what they want to do. We'll do that. And also I learned, and no, I don't walk around battling every executive, but I did learn that take what executives say as advice, but stand on my own knowledge of project management and implementation, right? Executives are always going to tell you their thought, but they're telling you their thought a lot of times not having to do what you've already gone through at this company or another organization, right? So I think you have to, so those three things are things that I've learned from that experience that I won't go back down that road again and let somebody talk me down and not implement a project correctly.
Yeah. And you also know how to deal with SAP and ERP implementations of that magnitude now.
I do.
It's funny because IT is messy a lot of the time, right? But I guess it doesn't have to be if you know the process and you know the project management. And I love that. It's respecting everybody, but also respecting yourself at the same time and knowing where you stand and what you know. Moving forward in your career, but also in this job, what are some of your personal priorities and what are some of the business priorities that are kind of top of mind to kind of accomplish?
Yeah. One of the things, there's three particular things. So one of the things, business priority wise, several things, we always want to keep technology costs down. So for me, I'm always looking at what is our best way to do that. Another thing that our leadership charged us with is really moving our department towards a FinOps model, right? Now that comes with a lot because when you're going in the FinOps world, it's not just you. It's supposed to be your finance team. It's supposed to be other areas within that are supposed to model after that. So we've adopted a pretty loose based part to FinOps, but it has helped us just reassess and look at how we're spending money. It makes us pay tighter attention to our cost expenditures throughout. And definitely keeping technology costs down, but also retaining the talent that it's going to take for us as we shift to a higher end cloud strategy, right? As we move away from on-prem, the thought is scientifically and strategically is that you're supposed to have less manpower, but less of a need for boots on the ground, so to speak. I don't think that's necessarily true. Right? I don't think it's necessarily true. I think I took what I'm seeing. I feel like it does increase that because you're just moving it to another environment. Yeah, there's things you won't be doing as much anymore, the patch management of those servers and things like that. But there's just so many other moving pieces in this organization as well as other organizations, right? And then the third thing really is, that's a major priority, is continuing to refine our security backbone. I think with that, you have to find the right blend, the right talent, the people, and the right tools. And they go hand in hand, and you have to have a fine balance of both merging together so that it can be used properly, strategically, and not haphazard, right? So those are the three major things I think that are biggest priorities. And then for my personal priority, really is to just continue being a better leader, being a more sympathetic and empathetic leader. We all have a lot of life matters going on. Think about it. In this day and age, we're sitting in approximately 5 generations or within one workplace. And that's not just here at API. That's in all across America, in the world. We're up to 5 generations that are working within a workplace, right? So everybody has different views. Everybody has different ideas. And I think we all have to learn how to be respectful of one another. And for me, I just want to continue being the best leader that I can, so that I'm adjusting to all the different age groups that I'm working with.
Yeah, no, this is a really awesome thing that you've said, that whole, because it's that, you brought it up in the beginning, that raving fan, right? That customer experience. You really have to be sympathetic and empathetic and learn how to understand all types of people. And you brought it up with that technological discrimination too. So I'm starting to see this trend about you, which is trying to be as people-centered and people-focused as possible.
Yep.
But that also includes yourself. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And respecting and standing on yourself. So a lot of amazing nuggets in this conversation. And so I'm going to challenge you to now summarize in sort of the last few minutes. What are some of the most important lessons, and you can repeat or you can come up with new ones, that you've learned over your career to kind of share and close with the audience?
Yeah, and it's good. Whenever somebody asks me this question, I would say I look over the past 10 years and it's changed. But I think in the last 5 years, it's always been consistent. It's about slowing down. It's about listening more and treating everyone with the respect they deserve. Those 3 things are as for me, becoming probably the ultimate leader. I want to be the ultimate leader. I want to be the best leader I can possibly be, right? There's always going to be great leaders, somebody better. And that's fine. I don't care about that. What I care about is that when somebody leaves my presence, I've educated them, that they feel that I've treated them with a high level and high degree of respect. And, and that they know that I'm listening to them. I'm coming to them with an empathetic ear and listening to them, not just listening over them, but listening to them and hearing the real them talk. So those 3 things: slow down, listening, better listening, and treating everyone with the respect they deserve.
Well, Anthony, thank you so much for your time today. This was an awesome, incredible conversation. So I just want to say thank you for your wisdom and for your expertise and for your knowledge. And I think everything that you preach, I felt listened to. I felt that we had a really good conversation. Even before the podcast started, I felt like I knew you longer than just the 10 seconds that we met, And so just creating that rapport and that trust, I think is awesome. So I want to thank you for your time, for your expertise and your wisdom. And I wish you all the best.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate anytime.
Well, take care.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this Keeping IT Real episode, and thank you for listening. Make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. This podcast is all about celebrating and connecting professional heroes who work hard at IT every day. To continue the conversation and learn how VCOM can help you better buy, manage, and pay for your technology, visit us at vcomsolutions.com. Until next time.